Okay, so once again, this is a plea for your help and any way you can show up to support me to deal with this and really try to... It's really awkward because I know that I have a doctor appointment this week as well. So the good news is I do get to see an actual doctor, and I am going to bring all of my dental stuff up while I'm there. I'm also going to try to sit down with the disabled veteran rep that is there in the hospital. Hopefully I can get a lot more support and guidance in how I can get my TMJ recognized through the VA. Because see, here's the thing. A couple years ago, I went to an orthodontist who, he checked my mouth and he admitted and he said, yes, this, the hard part is proving that it was the result of having my wisdom teeth taken out. But that's the most common cause. And so, on the top of that, the nice thing was in that clinic, in his office, his nurse gives the massages for TMJ. And if any of you out there have ever had TMJ or issues with grinding and jaw problems, it is, yes, stress-induced. It's everything from, caffeine can cause you to, have a physiological response to the stresses, because our body responds to mental stresses and chemical stresses, environmental stresses. All of this is contributing. I talked about heavy metal the other day. It's all cumulative, so all of it adds up. And if you have ever had any form of dental pain or issues with your jaw, the unfortunate thing is you go to a doctor and they don't trace it back to your dental stuff, and the dental doesn't talk to your doctor. And in the medical fields, it should be across the board. It shouldn't even be a question of whether, oh, this is covered only under dental or this is only covered under your medical. This is a whole body, last I checked. My head doesn't come off of my body. My mouth, you just can't take this dental stuff out and just separate it from the physical body. It's all interactive. It's all part of the whole. So to say one doesn't affect the other is dismissive, and that's one of the biggest problems in our country, our culture, is this idea that you think you can put little things in boxes. And this is about mentality too. This is about changing our perspectives and how we see and perceive. Because the old, just because it's been that way forever, it's never going to change, like you just keep on repeating those statements and nothing will change for you. But there are a whole lot more people out there like myself who say, no, I'm ready for change, and I'm not accepting the norm. The norm doesn't make it right. The fact that it's been that way and people have suffered and endured it or tolerated it because that's the way it's always been doesn't make it right. They say choosing the lesser of two evils. Oh, I have to choose the lesser of two evils. You're still choosing evil, people. That doesn't make it right. Why are you even bothering? Why can't you be neutral and say, I don't choose either one? That's one of the other things. If you are a neutral person, people get upset. They want you to pick a side. They want you to go this way or that way. Our politics is a perfect example. Come on. Why are we fighting with each other? We all want the same thing. We all want to be heard. We all want to be recognized. We want to be supported. But yet, if one person suffers, they want everybody else to feel their suffering. Like, that doesn't help anybody. If a boat is sinking, somebody who's on, the security boat can pull those people out and help them. Them jumping into the boat isn't going to save anybody. And that's the kind of mentality that's been going on around right now is, I'm miserable, so I want you to be miserable so that you can understand me, instead of, please help me out of my misery. Help me out of my pain. Help me out of these issues that I'm experiencing and dealing with. And that's where it comes down to, you see somebody who is in need, and you have to check yourself. Are you going to attack the person because they're asking for help? I mean, it's interesting. I've watched, and it's the dynamics in how People turn, their heads when they see somebody who's asking for money on the side of the road. Hey, they got the courage and the balls, or whatever you want to call it, to ask. God bless them. Even if you can't give them money, give them some food. Give them something. Give them a kind word, maybe a smile. Sorry, I can't help you today, but I'm going to keep you in my prayers. Something kind. It doesn't cost a thing. But see, that's where people get all up in arms, because they think they're going to lose something. So they get defensive and they want to resist giving because they're afraid of having something taken. This whole polarity of separation and divide is what's causing this disconnect between each other as human beings. We're not human beings, we're human doings most of the time. We're not present with each other. We're dismissive. We don't want to listen to the other person. Most of the times we want to, respond and react to the person instead of actually sitting there consciously listening to understand, to hear them. Because I've heard many a person say, I listen. Maybe you listen, but do you hear? Because there's more than what's being said if you're truly listening. Listening requires not just your ears to hear the sounds. And most people will tune most of it out anyway, because they're already thinking up what to say in response. That's not being fully present. That's waiting to respond versus listening to understand. And so the irony is, you know what? If you can give, if you can support someone, what is it that's holding you back? What is it? Is it a belief system? Are you afraid they're going to threaten your existence? Are you afraid that they're going to get something you don't have? Anytime I can help somebody, and I can't always help in the ways I want to help, but my mind thinks that's the way I want to show up to that person. In other ways, I'm able to. But every time you show up to somebody, it's your choice. It's your choice to show up to someone to hopefully better their life, or your choice to resist. And see, what happens with resistance and denying and dismissing other people is you block energy flow, because it's a mental thing. It's not a heartfelt thing. And when we come from a place of the heart says, anything I can do, what can I do? And most of the times, the simplest thing you could do is sink into your heart and ask, what can I do for that person that's going to enhance their existence, enhance their day, put a smile on their face, whatever will make them happy, versus what would make me happy that I can give them? Because that's where the resistance really is. The idea that if I give them what I think I would want versus what they're asking for, because this is the difference between listening and hearing. A lot of times people hear what they want to hear based on their own beliefs and what they would want, versus listening to hear what the other person is requesting and seeing how they may be able to fill the need, serve, or show up to that person in their best capacity. That's huge. And I've had to check myself and learn over the time that, there were plenty of times where I know a good portion of my life I was living in victimhood. And living in victimhood had me showing up to people wanting to be heard and not listening, or giving the person the opportunity to speak and listening to understand where they're coming from, because I was needing someone to hear me, someone to listen, I would respond in ways that were like, I tell you what, I look back, I'm embarrassed the way I behave sometimes, because that's where I was at in that point in my life. That was a completely different space that I was in at that time. And I've grown so much from that. Of course, I have plenty more to grow. I was never going to stop. And gosh, if I ever stop growing and learning and evolving, then I know I'm going through mundane motions and I'm in habitual habits and not trying to change. Because I think every day we should do something a little different. Because the same thing over and over again is just going to keep us stuck in the past. We keep repeating the past story. This is something that came up this morning when I was in my morning practice. Beautiful, beautiful thing to consider. Do you ever consider why they call them has-beens? And this is not a shaming or blaming or putting down of anybody. But what it is an opportunity to look at Do you live in the present, meaning you're able to drop the old stories and you don't compare and look back on the past as if that dictates your current situation and future experiences? Now, what I mean by that is, well, if you're in a victimhood story, I can't trust anybody. I'm unwilling to give somebody the benefit of the doubt because, oh, God forbid, that's been, that type of person, they've shown up to me in a way that's already proven they can't be trusted. And that's not even the person, that's just the experience you've had in the past. So that's untrue. So the reason people are stuck in the past is because they're still holding on to a story, and instead of looking at it with a different lens, trying to change the patterns and change the story and allow others to show up to them differently. They're perpetuating by repeating the story, talking about it all the time, telling it always as it was. That's called being a has-been, because the past has been. And nobody wants to be called a has-been when all it is a perpetuation of you doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Now, if you can recognize the gift and just be present, you are the gift. You are the one who has the power to show up and grow up, to step into a better life. I'm doing that every single day as much as I possibly can. Now, I'm human and I have my mistakes and I make them daily. God forbid I'm able to even see it. And I check myself and I journal and I reflect upon it and I go within and I confront all the inner dialogue, because that's where the work has to be done. It's not always pretty. I don't always like it. But let me tell you, it is so rewarding and enriching to gain a deeper relationship to my inner self, to my inner child that, for years felt neglected by the past stories. And now I'm reparenting myself so that I'm not stuck in the past and I can be a gift in the present for others as well as myself. So as I went into all of that, it really boils down to, we can choose how we show up to one another. And it's the intention we set. It's the commitment we intend to make when we show up to one another. Whether it's long-term, short-term, are you going to show up as your best self or the old self? And the best self is, I'm going to allow myself to show up to situations, experiences, and people now from this point on, and try to remember that when I look at those people, they are not my past. Any little triggers that come up, I will confront them directly, but I will not project them onto the people that show up to me, because those people are truly just trying to show me part of my past that I'm still attached to, and that opportunity for me to confront it and ask, what am I still holding on to? Because as soon as you can recognize that and see the gift and the blessing in that present moment of that trigger or whatever it is that they invoke in you, it's not the person that's the problem. It's the attachment to the old past experience that is. All of this teeth stuff is all about structure. Where in my structure, where in my life, and this is what I'm gleaning from all of this, and I'm sharing with you, what in my structure feels broken down, unsupported, feels there's pockets of holes, fillings, needs to be filled in, needs to feel safe and let go of, because inflammation is a discomfort, a dis-ease. And in my case, a lot of my inflammation has been anger. Anger at the past. Anger for my being in a victim type situation. That's a motorcycle next to me if you couldn't tell. And so as a result of that, I'm doing the best I can to heal myself from the inside out, as opposed to, some of this stuff you can only do so much, but it really is an inside job, I've learned all of my life. And in the case of my teeth, I've always tried to maintain them as best as I could, because teeth are most important. We eat. And if you lose a tooth, if you have to get rid of any type of teeth in your mouth, it's going to change your facial structure. And of course that affects other areas of your body, especially if they have to go in and a nerve gets deadened or your jaw gets messed up. You're talking about alignment, and even the alignment changes how your muscles are affected and how your skeletal system is affected. I have x-rays from when I had my mouth guard, my bite put in, that before the bite, it showed a compression in between each of the vertebrae of my cervical spine. And I have degenerated nerves in between, or degenerated discs in between my cervical spine, which can only be related to this when you really look at these visual x-rays. Because without the bite, with just normal bite, with the wisdom teeth extracted, it shows this compression, which means it can pinch the nerves in my cervical spine. And I've had nerve pain all the way down my left arm to the point where I could not drive. You know, people look at me and go, oh, what's your problem? You're skinny. You don't have any issues. Of course not. Pain is not something you can see. People can walk around pain with like excruciating pain you can't handle. That doesn't make them, any less than they are. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not real or that it doesn't exist. That's the biggest problem with projection. It's the biggest problem with assumption and judging other people, because you're judging based on what you are yourself experiencing and knowing only for you. So you have to trust that if a person says something, they're saying it because that's true for them. So cutting them down or telling them they're lying is just basically projecting your idea that I don't see anything, and you don't need proof. You should just trust and know that you don't have to have proof on someone else's experience. Nobody wants to have to prove themselves, and who said they had to? That's a blame-shame game that's totally unhealthy in itself. Now, when they put the bite in my mouth and took the x-rays, it showed the decompression. It created space between each of the vertebrae in my neck. That's huge. So the idea that my bite is significantly off and causing degeneration in my cervical spine as well as the pinching of the nerves is a huge eye-opener. And that goes back to what I said in the beginning. If the body is a whole the sum of the parts make up the whole, right? If the body, why do they separate medical and dental? It's all connected. But yet you got to go to all these different doctors and have referrals to prove something that is not crossing into other areas. They should be talking to each other. That's the biggest disconnect in our system, whether it be medical, dental. I think it's everything. Men and women communicate differently. Politics, black, white, and I'm talking black, white, like people can't understand that things aren't just black or white and there's shadows in between. There's different colors across the spectrum. We may not agree, but you know what? We can listen and allow one person's truth to be their truth and not dismiss them just because we don't agree with them. I'm sorry, this was supposed to be a brief video and I just kept on going. And I'm basically, my plea is that I need help and I'm asking for it. And that's the best I can do. If you can share this video, you can invite friends. If you can donate even a little bit, every little bit counts, every little bit matters. I need to not only have the teeth taken care of, and I've put the breakdown in the fundraiser, but I also need to be getting some massage therapy. Now, if anybody out there has ever had a TMJ massage, this is not exactly the most comfortable thing, but they go inside your mouth and they stretch out all the ligaments, the muscles inside along the outside of the teeth and also up into the upper palate and underneath. It is not fun. It is excruciating, but I'll tell you right now, it makes a world of difference and it helps significantly. So I need that, and I do need a couple other things like the toothbrush, and that has to be gentle on my teeth because of all these different issues that I have. I know my case is probably not the worst one out there, but I know what I need, and I can only ask for what I need. And so your donations are seriously super appreciated. And I thank all of you who are showing up and have supported me, because without you, I don't know what I'd do. And it takes a lot of courage to ask for help. And I don't know why people try to put people down for even asking, other than they don't feel worthy of asking themselves. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And so it's easier to turn around and cut someone down and look for all the things that are wrong through their perception and projection, instead of just saying, wow, let me just pray for that person, say a kind word, something. Hey, it costs nothing to say something kind to somebody. But it costs so much energy. It's exhausting when you're in the HATE state. When you start reaching out to put others down, all you're doing is bringing yourself down. Because as they speak about inflicting harm, harm can also be in the form of words, written or spoken. And a lot of the words we have in our heads are the most exhausting and condemning internally. We may think something bad about ourselves, but our body feels it. But when we speak harmful words toward another person, it's actually harmful to the other person, but harmful to ourselves. And people talk about cancer. That's like one of the biggest cancers, is when we get caught up in trying to drag others down to uplift ourselves. So I just wanted to get on here and just, again, my plea for help, asking for dental support in whatever way, shape, or form you can help me. Dental schools do have waiting lists. I don't think I could just jump on a plane to Mexico or Brazil, although I've had those wonderful suggestions, or Thailand. I'd love to do that, don't get me wrong, but I don't even have any idea of a place that I would even go. I mean, that's a lot of time and organization, and maybe that's an option. But I don't even have the money to do that right now anyway. So I thank those of you out there again. I love you all. Whatever you can do, again, it doesn't matter what it is. Share, invite, send a couple bucks my way, whether it's the fundraiser, contact me directly, whatever you need to do. I'm just saying thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for taking me into consideration, and know that I'll keep all of you in my prayers too, because together we stand and divided we fall. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. So I hope you'll have a wonderful evening. Good night.